Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us. This webinar, pretty exciting. We've got a bunch of folks, more folks outside of, or not your internal Brandwise people. So we're going to hear from some kind of external folks, which is exciting. So I just want to make sure right now, I've got a slide up on the screen that's showing you your GoToWebinar panel. Make sure that you choose an audio option. If you can't hear me right now, you probably can't hear that, but hopefully you can see this text here. Typically, when you join, no audio is chosen, so make sure you've got computer or phone call audio chosen here. Got a little questions section, so if you have any questions or comments throughout the webinar, feel free to plug them in there. If there are questions that we at Brandwise can answer, we've got an army of folks in the background ready to answer any questions that you have. If there's anything that's not answered during the session, we'll go ahead and open it up at the end for anybody that wants to ask a question on the phone. Finally, once you're all set with audio, if you need to hide the GoToWebinar panel, sometimes it's covering certain windows on your screen, just click the little red arrow in the upper left. You can click it again to bring that window back up, but that'll hide it for you. All right, to confirm that you can see my screen as well as hear me, can you please type maybe where you're joining from? Or and actually, Ari, I don't know, are you in Denver, Colorado? No, that's right, you're not.
Why? I'm in Dallas.
Awesome. Well, if we can get some folks entering where they're joining from, looks like that's coming in. Pennsylvania, Ann Arbor, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Florida. How exciting. I love having everybody from all over. Windy in Denver, woohoo! Where are my Alabama folks? Anyone out there, Alabama? I always like to say roll tide. Okay, well, I think everybody can hear and see. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Ari. You can do your introductions and let's get this thing rolling.
All right, if you can drop that share screen, Iris, we will be off and running.
You got it, hang tight. Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Oh, we're not doing any screen share. There we are. Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us. I am, again, really lucky to, I'm going to look great because I found some great people to talk with. So today we're going to be talking about new product launches and what that means and how we're doing that with all the reality in the world. And we were having a short conversation before we started, and we kind of talking a little bit about what an important role we all play right now. Anyone who's selling anything to a retailer, and kind of how serious it is. They have money to spend. If they do, how careful we have to be with making sure that we're selling things that we really believe they're going to sell, and how important that is, and how much their success depends kind of in this critical moment on choosing the right products and working with them. So as way of a very quick introduction, then we just go around. We have Ashley Miller from Kim Carson, who's a marketing manager and sales rep for Eastern North Carolina, not Northeastern Carolina, but Eastern North Carolina. We have Angela Schmuck, who's the current president of the Gift Home Trade Association and vice president of sales and marketing for Roadrunners. We have Lindsay DeMeyer, who is the rep principal for Dara & Co. We have Chuck Freilich, who is the president of TAG, and we have Taylor Brunson, who is the director of sales and customer relationships and all things that are important for Bellutuno. So I asked this group, we have 2 suppliers, 2 rep principals, and 1 sales rep, to come together to talk about how we can, how we're going to approach this, how we're all looking at what we're going to do now coming next. So the way we're going to start is we're going to start with, I'm going to ask each one of our panelists a question or 2. They can talk about what they're doing right now. Feel free to put questions in. We might get to them during, we might get to them after. I want to thank just a quick shout out to Todd and Janetta Litzman from Brandwise for putting the resources forward and for to making this happen. I think that right now bringing everyone together, because what everyone on this call agrees is that in order for any of us to succeed, we have to help everybody succeed. So our panelists are going to be sharing their strategy and what they're doing, which I think is quite laudable, because their understanding is, look, everybody has to do well. If I do well and no one else does, then this isn't going to work. So with that, just want to kick off, and we're going to start. First question is going to be to Chuck. First, obviously, introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do. But Chuck, if you can tell us what is TAG's plan and what is it that you're doing in regards to your launch for this summer?
Well, thanks, Ari. I want to thank Brandwise for hosting the roundtable. I want to thank you, Ari, for inviting TAG to participate. And most importantly, I want to thank you for allowing the youngest person on this panel to go first. So that's much appreciated. I've been in this industry for 25 years. I'm very passionate. I love this industry. So I was very happy to be able to join you today. Started with a family-run business many years ago. Worked for some private equities, worked for privately held companies and publicly traded entities. And so it's a joy and it's a passion of mine. So thank you again for the invitation. Certainly no playbook right now, right? We're certainly in a time where we don't have a playbook. There's no reference point for myself or for my team, but we certainly have a point of view. So I'll share some of our points of view here today, knowing that you all have one. Our point of view is for the moment. We're very patient with ourselves. We're certainly pivoting as information and data becomes available to us, but we certainly knew we had to have a plan. Not having a plan and sitting in a defensive position was not an option for us. And I wanted to go over our overarching approach before we go into how we approach the summer markets, because it gives you a little bit of an indication of how we approach this challenging times that we're in. Like everybody else, we were all in February looking at our supply chain in China and trying to figure out how we were going to get our goods in. And it was in a matter of weeks where this situation came stateside. And we certainly had to pivot and change and rethink our businesses rather quickly. I was heading to Illinois from Nashville, Tennessee on a flight that I decided to drive up. And it was during that 7-8 hour drive that I was thinking about what was to come and not knowing what was going to come. The first thing is we wanted to make sure we protected our employees. So that's what we did quickly. We leveraged technology. We did a work from home situation before the state of Illinois implemented one. We wanted to make sure that we had them safe. That was extremely important for us. They leveraged the technology well. I'm very proud of their achievements in doing that. April 1st was our 45th anniversary. TAG has been a brand and in this industry for 45 years. So right at the start of this crisis, we were hitting a milestone. And we know we don't hit that milestone without two major contributors. Number one is our customers. Our independent specialty channel customers are critical to our everyday thinking. We are who we are today because of those customers. And we're also very fortunate to work with about 14 sales representatives that have a 19-year tenure with TAG. Best-in-class sales representatives. They inspire me every day. They inspire my team every day. We don't hit this milestone without them. So a lot of our decisions that we make every day have both of those entities in mind, our customers and our sales representatives, because they're extremely important to us for how we've been successful for 45 years and where we're going to go next. And again, that independent specialty channel is at the forefront of all of our decisions. So we had two phases. Phase one was everyone's scared. It's uncertainty. What are we going to do? We're getting questions from all different channels and from different directions. Protect the employees, develop a plan, and communicate. That was extremely important to us. Anybody that talked to me the first 3 weeks, I ended a call or an email with the following: temper fear with reason, panic with patience, and uncertainty with education. We looked at every touch point as being an opportunity to spread optimism and not fear in our dialogues. There was too much fear out there. So we took the position to not to be defensive, but to establish a plan and to communicate that plan and control what we can control. And that was extremely important to us. We did a new norm project with our leadership team. We spent hours each week with that let them think about what's to come and made them plan and look forward versus backwards or in the present. It made them look in the future. We Zoom call every day. I never Zoomed before March 17th. I'm Zooming every day and I absolutely love it. And I'm learning a lot from it. But our leadership team gets together for an hour every day via Zoom. And what are we doing? I make them put a virtual background on there. There's a story to be told. They have to tell a story. I'm learning more about my leadership team through this time and through that vehicle and that tool than I did before. We're becoming stronger. In that phase one, we were worrying about our customers. They're very important to us. They were scared. And we were looking to see what we can do to assist them through this very, very difficult time. So obviously, we didn't do a broad message. We wanted to let each customer talk to us as one-offs to figure out what they needed. We wanted to listen to them. Social media, gimmick promotions all came down for us. We basically said, what do you need? Is it terms? Is it future shipments? Is it holding an order? We didn't get a lot of cancellations, thankfully, for this time, but we basically were listening to our customers. We were open for business. We were leveraging work from home, so our distribution center was open and our business was open, but it was certainly under new conditions. Then in phase two, we basically said, what's the reopen going to look like? Again, we don't know the date, but what are we going to do? And we basically said our product development team, our sales team, our catalog team, our showroom team never stopped working, and we held to our original timelines because we couldn't control what we could not control. But we knew that we were still going to come to our customers who needed us, and we needed to be prepared as an entity to do that. Not knowing exactly what it was going to look like, we knew we had to be prepared. We had to stabilize our supply chain. I mean, it was disrupted. We get half of our product from China and the other half from India. Both of those countries of origins are different today. One is coming out now, one came out about 30 days ago. But our long-term relationships with those factories allowed us to negotiate different demand and different terms and conditions. That trust that we had between those two entities was important to us. We looked at current and future inventory positions because that was all changing and what that was going to look like. Our sales collateral for the summer we thought was going to change. What does that look like? And catalogs. Catalogs are very important to our business. Catalogs are a necessity for independent specialty channels. We're getting behind catalogs. We actually came out with a fall holiday supplemental catalog because we felt that some of our customers were going to be looking for a fall holiday seasonal product for at-once shipment. 80-page catalog with 16 collections in it is what we had available to them. So that catalog was put together and is available to our customers when they were ready to listen for sales, when they were ready to look at inventory positions. We also have a spring summer catalog for 2021 that's going to be larger than last year. Probably the largest catalog that TAG has offered in the spring summer will be released in June and July in the next couple of months. So catalogs were important to our customers. We were going to come forward with it. Our road sales are important to us. We know our sales reps. We're going to be leveraging and depending on them more than ever. So we're basically looking at all of our sales collateral for our sales reps at this time as well. We got a brand new showroom going on in Atlanta, 40% bigger. So we're also investing in showrooms. We're banking on the showrooms opening. They may not open, but we're going to leverage that showroom virtually to support our business. So if they don't open, they don't open. If they do open, we're going to be ready. We're not going to wait for those decisions to be made for us. The team is prepped and ready to go. So one of the questions already you had asked is, will we have new product for the summer markets? And TAG, the answer is yes. We've got a fall holiday offering that we started pre-booking on in the last winter markets. And that product will be available through the hard work with our team. We'll start bringing that in July and August and making it available to our customers. So there'll be about 700 items of new in that seasonal offering from TAG. And then our spring summer 21 catalog, we're also going to be bringing forward, and that's under a pre-booking model, but that's going to be larger than the prior year, one of the largest spring summer catalogs we've had in quite some time. We'll be offering new from a pre-booking perspective in that catalog. So from a timeline perspective, we didn't let the markets dictate our timelines. Because
when you say markets, you mean the trade shows or the
trade show market?
Okay.
Trade show markets. And so we decided to continue to stay on our own timelines, our original timelines, and that's what we've been doing. Still coming out a little later than we wanted to with our hard copy catalog. It was originally scheduled for late June. It'll now be early July. But digitally, we'll be ready for our sales reps to hit the road in the late June timetable. So we had some impact and delays on our overall schedule, but the team held and we held to that original timeline.
Excellent.
The new items that were coming out right now is our spring summer collection. We usually have 10 collections. We've got 9. We decided just to delay 1 collection to the fall holiday. We're not going to abandon it. So all the work that our product development teams did in preparation for this release, we held to, and only delaying 1 collection. So our collections offering will be down slightly, but it's still a very substantial catalog. So I think that answers some of the questions and the broad approach that we have.
It's a great foundation. It's a great foundation, Chuck, and it gives a window into an industry standard in terms of a company and what they're doing, which I think is fascinating. And we're going to come back to with other questions, I think, as we come through this, because kind of as that establishing yourself there, and that basically very small changes, still going forward with the understanding that you have space in stores and you want to keep it. And whether or not the sale happens in June as it would, or August, or October, you're going to maintain that space, and you're going to maintain that even more so that presence, for your retailers, because you're not skipping a beat. All right, so let's move on now to Ashley Miller. Ashley, I have 2 questions for you. So I'll ask you both of them, but then you can tell me when you're pivoting. But here are my questions. As a road rep, how has your work changed? And the second one is, if you could get all your sales managers and all your manufacturers in one room together and get them to all do a couple of things for you specifically that you need them to do, you're in charge. And I think many of them are on this call, so listen up. What would you do? Right. So the first one is, how has your work changed? And the second part is, what would you ask of your suppliers?
Work changed. Supplier, vendor, agency, sales manager, sales rep, we've all changed. We've all pivoted. There's no denying that. Sales rep specific, we bring a level of personalized, customized service to the retailer. Okay. We hold the relationship. They build trust with us. I don't know how, but that level of personalized service is doubled, if not tripled. Okay. And what I mean by that is that, that level of that relationship and that personalized service, moving digitally, not being on the road, me personally, I've had to dive in and dig in deeper with my customers. Instead of, seeing them once every 6 weeks or talking to them every couple of weeks, like on the road, I have probably 20, 30 retailers that I am talking to multiple times a week. I can even tell you what time most of their dogs have their supper, because we're talking that much. So, you've said it plenty of times. The data and the stats show that reorders and orders with a sales rep are, 2 to 3 times higher. And that is because of the level of the relationship. But me personally, I've had to kind of pull that information out of my customers, because in the beginning, we were looking back at March and April, they had a very hard time seeing what was going to happen the next day, let alone figuring out if they need to pre-book 6 months down the road. They didn't even know if they were going to have a business or how they were going to pay their bills the next week. So buying product is like, Ashley, I can't fathom that. So it went from very early on being a sales pitch and having to pivot quickly to, the first thing I did was I wanted to check on them. I really just wanted to pick up the phone and be like, are you okay? I just need to know you're okay, because I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm not real sure either. And that was like at the end of March, first week of April, when all the states started to go into their stay at home. Every state's different. And then, I would keep those lines of communication open. And I've always wanted to keep them open, but I don't feel as I've been so in tune to my customers, and I've talked to them as much as I have the last 12 weeks, and I am exhausted. Like, we're all of us, we're working 200 times more for the exact same amount of sales. I literally think I've gotten 14 text messages since this call started. I don't even want to look at emails. So we're busier than ever. It's an on-demand kind of thing. Our customers are just now kind of starting to see, okay, I need to be looking like a couple weeks out. I need to be looking a month out. But, a month ago, having to get them to pre-book anything was not going to happen. And that's one of the other things is, the pre-book stuff is, I'm noticing a drop in pre-books, but this is how I've kind of noticed it with my customers. So we had a vendor that they had some new product launching June 15th. This was at the beginning of April. Of course, I sent it out to my customers. Crickets, silence. I contacted them. I was like, hey, we've got this new stuff. I really want you to get in on. I think it would be a great seller. Me knowing the business, knowing all of it. Okay, nothing. People just weren't there. They couldn't think 2.5 months out. They literally could not. So a couple weeks ago, probably about 2 weeks ago, middle of May, I revisited, the product. I was like, hey, do you remember this? And they're like, and it was almost like it was a new product. It was almost like they had never seen it before, but I know they saw it. So by revisiting that, I got the sense that people were able to see a little bit further out with their business. They weren't in that, okay, they can see they're going to be here next month. They're still unsure of December, and being unsure causes a lot of fear with buying. I've really had to dig in to them, and I've had to pull the question. So it's like, What are your best sellers? I'm asking my retailers, I've become more of an investigative sales rep almost because I have to get them, when I have them on the phone or when I have their attention, you know, they're worried about so much other. The normal amount of time that they spent with buying an inventory has definitely decreased. Not because sales have decreased. I actually have retailers that are up in sales, believe it or not, but everybody's all across the board. You know, I could have put kind of all of my garden centers or all of my hospital gift shops into one group before, but now, you know, if I take 20 of my boutiques, every single one of those boutiques is different. Not one of them have the same story. Not one of them are following a trend in sales. They're all over the place. So that level of personalized service for us, you know, 200 some customers, 40 brands, you know, Ari, you and I talk, do the math. I mean, that's 8,000 potential hits and dings and things that I'm going back and forth all day long. So the level of personalization is higher. I mean, it's unreal. I literally cannot rely on my head to remember anything anymore. It's pen and paper every single day. And then vendors, how does that, you know, oh gosh, if you get me in a room with all my vendors and all my suppliers, what would I tell them? So there's two things. It's going back to your sales reps are busier than they've ever been. Even if their sales are down and even if they're working their tails off, it's not because we're not talking to people. It's because the purchase funnel takes a little bit longer. You have to get the customer like to realize what's going on. You have to be there confident. They have to trust you. But there's two huge things that I've noticed. And to be honest, that's because my customers that contact me, they're not willing to, how do I say it? Like mess around. The stuff that they need and the products they need it yesterday. Okay. So if they are shopping, they are looking for something and they need it in a very short window or within the next 2 to 4 weeks. They're not really thinking that far out again. I can't assist them if I don't have the right sales tools, digital assets, or if I don't know what's in stock. That's been the biggest struggle the last 12 weeks is there's a sales term called SWOT. Sell what's available today. My retailers have never wanted to know more in any time that I have known more what is in stock and what do they have to ship now and when are they shipping. If you can't keep your sales team abreast on what you have available to sell in some kind of communication, you know, we use Brandwise. There's a product file, stock status can be updated. You guys do a phenomenal job. I love it. When vendors can tell me what's in stock versus like what's not, it's not a guessing game with the customer. Because I get on the phone with the customer and they're like, hey, is this available? Well, I don't know. The vendor doesn't update their sales team with what's available. How does that sound to a customer? You know, like when we can't be trusted because we don't have the right tools. The second one is the digital asset. The last 12 weeks, we haven't been on the road. We haven't been in front of customers with samples. We haven't been in front of customers with digital catalogs. Yes, we're all pivoting. I'm doing more Zooms. I'm doing more Facebook Lives. I've even done dances with samples for customers, okay? But at the same time, I need to be able to send them stuff and send it to them quickly. And if we're on the phone, if I get them on the phone for 10 minutes, and this happened with a customer yesterday, I've been trying to reach out to her for about 3 weeks. I knew she needed restocks. We got on the phone and within 40 minutes, she was able to place 7 vendor orders with me, totaling a couple $1,000s, but it was like bam, 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 bam. One of the vendors, we didn't have the photos of the stuff in our system. We didn't have the digital catalogs, you know, linked. It was taking me forever to figure out, okay, what's that product number? Because she didn't have the catalog in front of her. I'm trying to get the order taken care of her as quickly as possible. I'm trying to get my master catalog at the same time. I'm having to leave the order screen. Meanwhile, she's sitting there waiting for me to find the right product number for her. So they don't have that kind of time. So knowing what's in stock, knowing what you have available, knowing what you're doing, knowing your processing times. I've never had retailers want tracking numbers more than ever in my life. And then your digital assets. It's so important for us to have access to your digital assets quickly, because the true reality is that, you know, if a customer calls me and they're looking for something specific, you know, Brandwise allows us to, I can type in, you know, if they're looking for butterflies, I can type in butterflies and it searches all of our vendors, which is phenomenal. But guess what? If the vendors don't have their product descriptions, they don't have their product files, they don't have their stuff linked, your butterfly product that my customer is looking for is not going to pop up. And therefore, I'm not going to show my customer. So we quickly move on. And that's a true reality. And I hate to say that, I don't spend 20 minutes on each vendor looking through each customer, but that's the reality of a sales agency, is because, we're multiple brands, and that's how we assist the customer so well and build the relationship, because we're a one-stop shop. That's all I got for right now.
The only part though is that if you're exhausted now and you're able to have this much energy, I've been doing something wrong my whole life, because I don't understand what that is. Okay, so thank you, Ashley. I think that's a great positioning from sales rep. So now we're gonna pivot to Lindsay. It's Lindsay's birthday today. So if you haven't written happy birthday in the note, you try happy birthday. Lindsay's birthday. So Lindsay, I have a question for you. So we're gonna make an assumption that your suppliers have changed in some way what they're launching right now. And so where your suppliers would have traditionally, let's say a certain company comes out with 5 collections, 20 products. There are some changes. How are you, as a rep principal, fielding that information? How are you working with your reps on it, and how are they working with their retailers on it? Because that regular machine, that standard machine that you can count on, isn't necessarily there. How are you working on that, on handling that, on messaging? What's your approach?
I think that it all comes down to education. I think that context is king in these types of scenarios and situations. And really, I think the role of the sales rep has to be, has to come from a foundation of knowledge. Kind of to Ashley's point, which was really well articulated, as much as the stock status, the digital assets, all of that, the why has to be there too. They've got to be kept in the loop on what's going on from a fiscal standpoint. You don't have to know all the details of the vendor from a fiscal standpoint, but they have to know kind of, general health would be good. Supply chain, where they're sourcing, how they're sourcing, what they're able to bring in. And it provides the rep with context about the realities of what's coming or what's not coming, what was going to come, what's now been delayed, so that they can have an educated conversation with their retailer, because the retailer also needs to know what's going on. And I think that being able to package the information as a rep who has the context, who has the knowledge, who has the wherewithal to explain, well, this manufacturer is going to scale back some of their things, and here are the whys. Here are the whys on that. Their factories in China weren't online until late April, so they just couldn't get the product. So it's not that they didn't want to invest in it, they just couldn't get it. And that's important to know. Or it's important to know that, we have a ton of stock already available, and from a financial situation, we need to work through that stock. And that's okay too, because those are great sellers. And so be able to have the knowledge so that they can present the story and to their customers, not as a doom and gloom, but as an opportunity, and really not go in and say, well, XYZ vendor is not going to have a new release this year. And that doesn't sound good for anybody. You really have to say XYZ is going to scale back on their release this year, and here's the why. Here's why they're going to do it. And really, a lot of that information doesn't always make it to the sales team, but the sales team is who needs the information. These are different times. We need to know as much as we possibly can so that we can do our best job on our vendors' behalf, which that's why we've been hired.
You're also humanizing the suppliers in the eyes of the retailer, right? You're making them into a person. Like the retailer is a person, the rep's a person. There's a certain, I think, level of understanding and interest, right, in each other and what we're doing, which I think is quite key. How through this, so with that process, so you're getting information to you're getting information to your reps, you're helping them. I mean, I'm sure that they have a certain disappointment level when they're getting the news.
Yeah. So I talked about this yesterday, but I think when we kind of let our team know that not all the vendors were going to come out with their regular mid-year releases, it kind of was like the room deflated, and you could just feel them. You're like, oh, usually for the last 30 years of Dara & Company, the mid-year release is that big reason to book a show appointment, get back in their store, to tell them that they need something new and fresh. And without that driver, they have to, somewhat change the way that they're approaching their customer. And that's hard after you've been conditioned by the industry to do your job. And so, you know, I had a couple and be like, well, what are we supposed to say? And that's a hard question because that's what they're used to saying. You need to see what's coming out. You need to see what tag's bringing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about it. So that conversation now changes, and how does it change? And so that's part of our job, is to help coach them through how do you approach your customers when you don't have, you know, entire showroom full of new, and you're not sure that you have this amazing market that they're going to come to and that you're going to entertain them with. So it's really figuring out how to pivot and how to change and how to bring the excitement that is still there, because there still are exciting changes almost from everybody. It's just a little less than normal, and it's going to look different because it may not happen at market. It may happen in the field. It may happen on Zoom. It may happen on a Facebook Live. It's going to happen in different ways this year.
I think some of the excitement's going to come from when people start receiving boxes. I buy things on eBay every once in a while just so that I get sent something, because it's, but I'm like, hey, it's a present. I bought it. So Lindsay, just one last question. Go ahead, Ashley.
I have a question for Lindsay. So you mentioned, you know, we were talking about vendor communication and knowing what's available and stuff. How, like, I guess all vendors have been pivoting in how they communicate, but have there been ways that vendors, like, you know, no names or anything, but are there ways that they're communicating, you know, all of these things that sales reps need to know that are working better than others? I mean, the traditional way was like email or from the sales manager, but are they taking advantage of other forms to update the sales team at all that you think are working better than others?
I think that if Susan, our director of sales, was on the call, I think that she would say that they are literally drinking out of a fire hose right now. They've got information coming from all different, you know, areas. It's email, it's text, it's Brandwise. I mean, ideally, it would come from one place. We try really hard to compartmentalize and consolidate, whether it's account reports that you know, that are tabbed, that have read these are declined credit cards, this is supposed to ship this week, these are orders that are on hold. You know, trying to compartmentalize it and manage it is really kind of the key. And that's, you know, I mean, Susan's probably working 3 times as hard as she's ever worked to try to make sure that our team is getting the information that they need in order to move forward. And ideally, yes, we've got a handful of them on Brandwise that manage all of their stock through Brandwise, and that's a beautiful thing. But we also understand that not everybody can do that, and that it's going to come from different places in different ways. But ideally, if they can go to one place and they can log on to Brandwise and they can see that there's 35 of those, you know, items that they're looking at available, that's awesome. You know,
last one question about when we talked yesterday. You mentioned a bit about, you know, what is it that they're going to say to the customer. There's something else that you had talked about that you had them do throughout this period from when this started in terms of their touch points with their customers. You actually gave them a directive to interact with them on a fairly regular basis. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been talking about from the beginning, and it's a lot like what Ashley said, I mean, you've got to be in touch with your top customers. Those are the ones that, number one, you have a relationship with. They're your friends. I mean, they want to hear from you, and, you know, be able to know where they are in their business and how you can be available to them. And then the second part was figure out how they want to be met. Do they want, you know, when things start to open up, and we all know that the Southeast is definitely starting to open, you know, how do they want to work with you? I mean, do they want to work in store? Do they want to work on Zoom? Do they want to just text you? Do they want to Facebook? And I think it's really important for us to be able to train and to educate and coach on ways that customers are looking to be interacted with where they're comfortable. If that's at market, or if that's before market, if it's a concierge type of appointment, if it's, again, you know, a Zoom call, if it's a virtual walkthrough, you know, on the Wednesday before market. There's all kinds of different ways to, you know, to get the job done. And, you know, the reps are going to be the ones that have to really learn all these different ways of communicating and figure out who needs what, how they need it. And to Ashley's point, I know our team has been working overtime and learning new skills, trying to ramp up, trying to be there for their customers, provide them with the information that they need, because a lot of the lines that we represent are big lines for our retailers. They need these products, and they need these relationships. So
now that sounds exhausting.
It is.
It does.
It's
It
way
does.
easier than the
Can you get-
third grade homeschooling. Don't worry.
Chuck?
Yeah, all right, just a quick question. I know Lindsay's talking about leveraging technology with customers. I would also strongly encourage the vendor community to leverage. And again, I'm a big Zoom fan now, so it's only been 60 days. I think I'm an expert. But I would challenge the vendor community to leverage that technology with their sales reps. Education with our sales reps at this time, just prior to going back out in these reopening zones, is important. I think as vendors, we own that. And there's fun ways of getting it done. I know our Tom Chowski, our SVP sales, has found a very fun way to engage with our sales reps and re-educating them, educating them, and staying in touch with them. You know, feeling part and connected, I think was another word somebody said earlier, staying connected with TAG and our brand. And so I challenge the vendors, you know, through the principles, the agency principles, to stay connected with them, leverage and have fun with the technology, because they're getting ready to go out again to these reopened zones. And we got to arm them. We got to arm them.
Thanks, Chuck. I agree.
So
Ari,
now
we do
what's
also
that?
have a question for Lindsay.
Sure.
So one of them was, will you have an open showroom for the Atlanta market this summer?
Define open showroom for me. But the answer is yes.
Meaning,
I mean-
will you be open? Oh,
Yes.
or do you mean open showroom in the sense of the technical term? What's the question exactly, Kelly?
Will you have an open showroom for the Atlanta market this summer? This is coming from Susan Fontan.
We don't know what yeah, it depends. We need clarification on the question. If they're asking if Lindsay's going to be open or if it's going to be an open showroom in that technical sense, or is the answer yes to both, Lindsay?
So we're going to be open, yes, this summer.
Okay.
Will you allow outside reps?
Yes, I think that we are working on a policy for that. We've always been open. We've always welcomed our counterparts from across the country to come in and use the showroom. We think the showrooms are powerful tools that shouldn't just be for, you know, those of us that have showroom, you know, leases. We believe that it creates a stronger rep, believe that it creates a stronger relationship with your retailer, and
your vendor.
it's a necessity. So we're trying to figure out the best way to prioritize. I mean, obviously we've got to serve our local customers first, you know, along with the safety of our team and our vendors, but also be able to be the resource that we've been known to be. So the details will be forthcoming as we start to figure out our own protocols and get some guidance from IMC. But my short answer is yes.
Great.
Perfect. And then this is also for all the agencies that are represented here on this call. This is coming from a supplier. I'm a 1.5-year brand and I have had a successful launch. I was in the process of looking for rep agencies, then COVID. I'm wondering thoughts on agencies wanting to pick up new lines during this time. Are you focusing more on that or just on your existing accounts?
We're always looking. I mean, just because of the pandemic and just because the markets are going to be smaller and less volume doesn't mean that we're not going to continue with our business. And we are absolutely always looking for great partners who fit into what we're doing and fit into our line package. So I would say, yeah, this may be a better time than any. I mean, there's a lot of vendors that are not going to make it out of this alive, and I think that's a really sad reality. And we're gonna, you know, we already have a couple relationships that we're going to have to end, not because we wanted to and not because we chose to, but just because the reality of the situation. Mm-hmm. So, you know, new vendors and new giftware vendors especially are the lifeblood of our business, just like new customers. I mean, that's what keeps the wheels rolling and the creativity. And so, yes, absolutely. Come on.
Angela?
Yeah, I everything that Lindsay just said, and actually we've launched new brands since the pandemic. And they've not, you know, not necessarily been need-based products. So yes, I mean, when something hot and great that fits into your model and what you're doing in your line package, we run with it. So yes, I would encourage you to hop back on and continue your search.
And to add on that, one of the things that's clear is that from what Ashley said, from what everyone's saying, what was true about a store 4 months ago and who their customer base is and what they're selling, aside from specifically COVID-related products, there's a lot of changes that are coming. So if you have a new product line, or if you have a new extension that you're looking, or a new collection you're putting forward, this might be the perfect opportunity because people are doing more of this and less of this, and a little percentage change can make a sea change. So let's move on to Taylor. Taylor, I have 2 questions for you. What is your plan? Which is the question we asked for Chuck, and the kind of small follow-up piece to that is, how does that plan, what parts of that have to do with what you're reacting to? So first, what's your plan, and then kind of how did that come about?
All right. I feel like I had so much to say to Ashley, so much to say to Lindsay, so much to answer for your question.
Good.
But as Lindsay said, context is king. So I'm going to start with, I'm Taylor. I'm the sales manager for Bellatuno, as already introduced earlier. But for Bellatuno, we're a mission-based baby accessory brand, and we're on a pursuit to end childhood hunger. For every product we sell, we donate 1 meal to 1 child in need, and we actually just surpassed our 4 million meals donated mark.
Wow.
And we did that during this awful pandemic. So it's a little bright light. Ari, to you, what's our plan? Our plan is to stay true to our purpose. We exist to feed kids. That was true long before COVID, and it stands true now, and it's more necessary than ever. It's actually estimated right now that 1 in 4 kids in the US will go to bed hungry, whereas it was just 1 in 7 a few months ago. As for product, what's our plan? If you asked me in January, it would have been to launch a bunch of amazing home run product categories and designs. But now our plan is to pivot a bit. We've abbreviated that launch to more line extensions. I'm sure everyone's heard the buzz on the street is retailers are looking for proven product. They want to buy what sells. So we're going to give them new, but we're going to do it in proven product. For us, that's bibs and teethers and pacifier clips. And what I'm really excited for is the collection that we're launching in those bibs and teethers is the Little Activist collection. We pride on ourselves on kind of being good people, doing the right thing. Last season, we launched the Kindness collection, which had sweet mantras like be the sunshine and world changer, and really great, awesome things that you want your kids to be, to see, to wear. And this season, it's going to be Little Activists, which genuinely could not be more timely, as we had no idea when we created it. But now, I mean, the Venice canals are running clear. You can literally see jellyfish in the Venice canals because of this pandemic and people kind of taking a step back and there being this moment of pause. You can see the mountaintops of the Himalayas. You can see things that you weren't able to before. It's kind of amazing. So this social movement that we're kind of capitalizing on from such an awful thing. So we're staying true to our purpose with a collection that is capitalizing on a time that
would you say that you think that your I mean, you had choices because you had a lot of different things that were happening, and sure, there's the part that it's an extension of what you were already doing, but specifically would you say that that's a trend that you're betting on?
I think that's exactly what we would say.
Okay.
Again, it's our purpose to change lives, and we do that through feeding kids, and we've positioned ourselves to focus on the trend of the social movement that is kind of occurring from this pandemic.
Right.
So it's kind of built in our core, but we're going to use that as an effect from this.
So when you're talking with your sales reps, I mean, you're in the baby market, right? So while, what is your messaging from wherever you were, let's say in their hierarchy before, right? Let's say everything's on the table. What is your messaging with them in terms of why, they should, maybe you were a top 5 line for a rep, but let's just say that wasn't, for the ones that you weren't. What is it? What is your specific messaging, whether it's being opportunistic, whether it's your social, the mission based? What's the message that you're using?
It's going to sound like a broken record, but it's actually the same every season. We start with our why, feeding kids, but babies are still being born. And maybe now more than ever, we are at a time where we're home a lot. We might be in the next baby boom. So that is truly another thing I'm going to emphasize. I mean, we're not able to go to baby showers. So people are more, I almost feel like now more than ever, hopping online or going to their boutique site or going through their boutique social media, calling them and be like, hey, you gotta have that Bella Tuna baby bib, and I need you to send it to my friend because they're having a baby and I can't go see them. We've definitely been seeing a trend of that, and so that's huge, on top of course, feeding all those kids who really need it right now. So
anyone who doesn't buy a bib from Bella Tuna today is a bad person.
yeah, that's exactly what I said, right? Yeah.
All right, that's excellent. Okay, so to bring us home with our last kind of main question, then we're going to get into all the rest of the questions. This is a question for Angela. So Angela and I were talking yesterday, and about what, where the focus is and what's happening. And Angela led off with a phrase which is wonderful. But specifically, Angela, how are you and Roadrunners and your team? Because we've had some supplier facing conversation here, but we've had a lot of retailer facing conversation. So how are you specifically working with suppliers? And in that, can you give us some examples? Because I mean, just on this call, right, two companies, Tag and Bella Tuna, couldn't be more different. I'm sure in terms of ethics of being good companies, they're very similar, but in terms of what they make, what their size is, what their scope is, what their history is, what their position in someone's store is, right? Where Tag might be a major part of someone's offering, and Bella Tuna is going to be, a very nice niche. How are you working with these suppliers in those different ways?
So it's interesting with Tag and Bella Tuna both on this call, because you guys are very similarly representative of Roadrunners. We have 5 different regions, 5 different line packages, and we work with I think one of the widest varieties of suppliers. We work with suppliers that are the size of a Tag, and we work with companies that are way smaller than Bella Tuna. We have companies that they design the product, make the product, put the product in the box, and ship the product. So we're working with both size companies, and those two types of companies don't have the same needs. It's not a one size fits all. When I first made the transition from being a sales rep in the field to being a manager, I categorized reps as reps and vendors as vendors, and they were singular. And I very, very quickly learned that they're not singular. They're each individuals and extremely, extremely different. The key for us over the last couple of months with our suppliers has been communication, communication, communication. Because what works for the big company doesn't work for the little company, and what works for the little company doesn't work for the big company. And we've had to be more adaptive than we've ever been before. We have to listen, and we really have to meet each supplier where that supplier is. So I think Lindsay said it earlier about everyone was, in the past it's always been about new. And I don't even know all along if that really is our best strategy, because there's some really great products that get developed, and the core of the product is really great, but maybe it wasn't packaged right, or maybe the price point was wrong, or maybe the delivery time wasn't on point, or maybe it was the messaging, that there wasn't the messaging there. So what we're trying to do is to have conversations now, looking at meeting the retailer where they are with what they have, and how can we reinvent some things that were really good ideas. And sharing and conversing. I watched last night, I saw some screenshots. My Southeast Director of Sales at like 10 o'clock last night was developing product with one of our vendors, and she's texting him and he's texting back, and she's sending us screenshots, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I mean, this is made in the US, they're not in China. but we're doing things differently. You know, we used to sit in a meeting and it would be an email and they would send you images, and processes would take, months to develop product. And Chuck mentioned about getting to know people so much better. I feel like that's happening too, because we're texting and developing products at 10 o'clock at night. And so it's really about communication, finding out what they need, and figuring out a way to work together. I think that there are companies that are in crisis that are trying to just cover it up, and they're not communicating with us. And if they would communicate with us, we could help them, instead of just screaming, I need more sales, I need more sales. It's kind of like uncovering that and figuring out we all need more sales. I need more sales. Ashley needs more sales. Lindsay needs more sales. But figuring out how we can all work together so we all get more sales, and we kind of got to know what those underlying things are. Taylor has a question.
Yes, because I cannot agree more with everything you're saying. Ashley, Lindsay, Chuck, like everyone, totally agree. Communication, absolutely key. What is the best form of communication? I can email all day long, and I do. I send a lot of emails. That's almost the problem. It's like when there's something that is so like everyone needs to know this, well, I'm sending so much information. Like I send an inventory report actually at least once a week. If like something big happens and like wipe us out of a SKU, I'm like, oh, they need to know this. Like, well, let me send that. Maybe that's too many emails. Maybe that makes me like, oh, Taylor's sending too many emails. Like, let me just blow past this one. I feel like there needs to be like a hub, a resource. Is it Brandwise? I don't know, but like that more than inventory. Like, yeah, we need to keep our inventory up. I do agree that. Ashley, you were nailing it. I totally agree. And trust me, we want y'all to be selling what's in stock more than just as much as you do. So I think that we're all working on the same page, but it's like, what is that source where I can put these videos that I'm making to teach reps, to teach accounts?
Sure. Well, I think that there's a myriad of choices out there. And interestingly, Taylor, a question that came through, so what is everyone's opinion on the fact that now every retailer will be bombarded with social media from so many venues, as well as so many reps? How will that bombardment affect the retailer, in your opinion? So, and also this goes for the sales reps that are being bombarded by their 40 suppliers, and the cycle of abuse just kind of continues. One of the things that I'd say from my point of view is there's an amazing tool that people don't use enough these days: the phone. I'm just saying that when someone calls me on my phone, it's like, wow, a phone call, a human voice. Now, go back 4 months ago, it'd be like, who has time for a phone call? And maybe they don't. But the novel aspect of someone saying hi, right? And yes, it is through an electronic device, but it's in real time. It's not Marco Polo. I can hear your voice in real time and we're talking. Do you have a minute? But to your point, I don't know if anyone has a particular answer. What's the best piece? Because if we did, we'd all run and use it, and then that would be saturated. So I think, if I was advising, I would say find the thing that's uniquely yours. Be open to omni-channel. But do that thing to try to set yourself apart. Chuck is sending a 272-page catalog. That is going to get their customers' attention because they're putting something tactile in their hands, right? Mm-hmm. That's Ashley has a Facebook group for her customers. That is setting her apart. The product isn't the 40 lines that Ashley carries. The product is Ashley, right? It's the trust factor there, and so that piece. So how do you best support the salesperson who has the relationship, that connective tissue, right? That connective tissue between the two, I think is what we all agree is incredibly important. Chuck, just one point of clarification. You had said you had 14 reps for 19 years. Did you mean 14 rep groups or 14
yes.
reps?
No, so we have 14 sales agencies geographically spread out. We have about 120, 130 individual reps.
Earlier you had said 14 sales reps, and I was going to say, wow, they must do a lot of business.
Again, I can't emphasize more the importance of our sales agencies. There's 14 agencies, approximately 120 individual people with an average tenure of 19 years, and they are extremely important to our success. And I also think, we're banking on the independent specialty channel. I said it several times, but you're throwing the trust word out. I believe when the local communities come up, they're going to want to buy from the small independents. They're going to want to spend that discretionary money in those independent accounts. and they're going to come right back to the reps because they're going to trust that rep, that relationship. What do I need to buy now? We all need in this industry to work together. We need to get these independent specialty channels through 2020. And there's multiple ways we can all do it, a lot of point of views for sure. Obviously, that's really important. They're not all going to make it, but we've got to work hard to get them into 21. And some of it is, do you show them new? I mean, that was a great question up here. We're seeing a lot of at-once business more than pre-booking, but we feel showing them new shows our investment in them long-term. It shows what they're going to see when they're ready to buy it. So we're going to be there for them at that stage. But right now, it's that inventory, how much they can get in that now is important because we changed our showroom several times already. How's she going to think when she walks in the room? Where's her mindset? We think she wants to be inspired by the new in the future, but the dollars and the activity is going to happen more than that one scenario. Just my opinion.
It's a good one.
You bring up a really good point about the future. And I know for a lot of sales reps and for sales agencies, for us as the months have gone on, the first couple of months were not as hard, but this month and next month are going to be the ones that are really going to hit the sales reps and the sales agencies the hardest. And there's been all of this talk in the past about retail apocalypse, and I really see a retail renaissance coming. One of our vendors coined the downtown rebound, and I truly believe that because never in the history of or at least as long as I've been in this business, and I feel like I've been in it a little longer than I want to claim, but never has there been a time frame where everything has been focused on mom and pops and shop local. Never. Our government, our media, they have done the best job ever advertising for us, all free advertising. I think people are really going to spend time rediscovering what's right in their backyards, and I think it's going to be really good for us as soon as we can get over the hurdle, over the hump, and back to whatever that's now going to look like. But I think we've got some good times ahead of us in independent retail.
Anyone have any questions for each other here? And then we might grab one or two from the list with the few minutes we have left. Anybody want to shoot a question out? All right. Callie, what do you got for us?
So if any of you guys do have anything that hasn't already been brought up so far, feel free to raise your hand in the meantime and we can get to your questions that much faster. I know that there has been a couple concerns about how you guys are actually utilizing some of these meeting tools to be able to do different rep trainings and working with suppliers and everything like that. So do you guys have any best practice shares that you like to share with everyone else?
Hey, Callie, I'm going to unmute Andy really quick. He had something really cool to say about lines related to COVID. Andy, are you still on the phone?
I am. Thanks. You had about 3 minutes before I had to jump off, so that's perfect. Hi, everybody. This is Andy Seichman. I'm a consultant that helps people get placements and manage sales through rep agencies. And someone had talked about, I think I asked Lindsay about what the experience is in terms of what they're willing to look at, what she's willing to look at as a rep principal. And just recently, in fact, just this morning, I signed a line with a national group for a good chunk of the country that had no interest in that line 6 months ago because it was too small, because they don't really pioneer things, it's not their strength. And suddenly there was tremendous interest in it because this line is up still 10% as of the end of May over last year. And it's not PPE or anything like that, it's just a gift. It's a gift, a kitchen gift line. So I really think that all the rules are kind of out the door about everything, not just this, but about this in particular. I think if there's a good opportunity, I think to Lindsay's point, they're always open to something a little different. Maybe if it's smaller than usual, that's okay now, because again, to Lindsay's point, that some of the people in your room are probably going to disappear and you got to protect yourself against that. So that was just what I wanted to share with everybody.
Thank you.
And I would also say that opening, in the room per se, opens up opportunity for new stuff, so that's also why it's a great time, because there's an opening, there's bandwidth availability. And I think it's important for reps to know that, for vendors to know that, people looking.
If you got something hot right now, it gets everyone's attention, right? If it's going to sell, it's going to get your attention, period, in a statement.
Callie, to answer your question about the digital tools, we're going to share the link to the GHTA call from a few weeks ago, where there's an hour of content there that's fantastic. GHTA, but we did a roundtable which covered that specifically. So we'll include that in a communication for everybody on the call. We have time for one more question. Callie, what do we got, or anyone here around the table?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else come through so far.
Okay.
So if you have anything else yet. Oh, we do have a question now for Angela and Lindsay. How are you communicating with your vendors the importance of catalogs and good sales materials to your vendors?
Good question.
And I would say that we're communicating, kind of in our regular channels. I would hope our vendors would agree that, we're in touch frequently about what our needs are. We're hosting a all vendor call next week just to kind of walk through what market's going to look like, what the reps need, what just really be able to touch base and be consistent in our message and make sure that everybody hears the same thing.
I think the question was specifically about the importance of catalogs and materials. I think they were saying, do you as a principal have a specific ask that you're putting out to the suppliers in regards to their sales materials?
We need them. We need catalogs. We need sales materials. We need samples. We need all the things that we've always needed. Just because the pandemic happened doesn't mean that we can't have the tools that we need to do our job if you want us to do our job.
And in some cases, we need even more. If the reps are not physically in front of the customer, I was writing to a vendor this morning, you might begin to get a request for a case of a product from a rep because they're now mailing stuff to customers. If you sell a personal care line, for example, it's really hard to sell a personal care line over Zoom if you don't have that complete trust in your sales rep, if it's a newer relationship. One person loves the smell of vanilla, another person loves the smell of chocolate. It's like you can't, there's got still some tactile decision making that goes on. And so there's some different things that you need. So sometimes it's more than what you had before.
Sure. So we're going to wrap it up. My last message first, I want to thank our panelists. That you were all fantastic. This was a lot of fun. Hope we get to do it again. One of the phrases that has been coming back to me as I've been approaching this is that this is a moment in time in history when there's an interesting dichotomy happening. We're selling essential products to, I don't want to say non-essential stores, but let's just say to gift stores and bookshops and museum stores and places that wouldn't have carried them. And we're selling non-essential products. Of course, everything is essential, but let's say discretionary products to essential stores, right, more than ever. And so that interesting piece kind of opens up this whole world where, to the core of what we're talking about of what's new, the real answer is that so much of all of your lines and your line packages and things that you offer are new to so many people that everything is new right now. We're in a new world. And I commend everyone who's going out there and taking on that trust to sell things to stores and to work with them. And from all of us at Brandwise, we thank you for spending this hour with us. Take care.
You have a couple more questions actually before you guys all sign off. So sorry about this.
That's all right.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute Mike. You've raised your hand a couple times here. Mike, you should be unmuted now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mistakenly had my hand up.
Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and unmute Catherine. You should be unmuted, or you're able to unmute yourself. In the meantime, while we wait for you, Catherine, the vendors seem to be taking this situation as a reason to no longer make physical changes or physical catalogs, which is exhausting trying to explain that not every retailer is okay with digital catalogs. Do you guys have any insight on that?
I do. I mean, yes, there is a significant cost factor. When we when I spoke earlier about the large vendors and the small vendors, and sometimes it's a matter of, I can either go out of business or I can make you a catalog when we look at some of the smaller suppliers. But at minimum, at minimum, you've got to provide your sales reps with a printed catalog for those face-to-face visits with their retailers. That's minimum. Then if you can't do that, the next level up would be at least give your sales reps 10 catalogs so that they can, if they have to, mail them out and make them shareable with their retailers. And I'm talking about if you're that baby supplier, it really is your core piece of marketing material. A lot of people can work digitally, but a lot of people can't. And hopefully the pandemic has pushed more to the digital. I like to save trees myself, but we've got to have the tools to do our job. We still need paper catalogs.
Yeah, and I think one of the other questions, was how do you stand out when retailers are getting bombarded with everybody's social media and email? And I think if you want to stand out, you give them a physical catalog. And I'm still as digital as I am and as Facebook savvy and in front of a camera. Y'all, I love a polka dotted notebook. I mean, there's something about paper and pen that still gets me really pumped up. But if you want to stand out and not be so digital, I think, and Angela, you hit it, like it doesn't, if the budget doesn't allow for it, what can you allow? Is it that one printed copy? Is it knocking it down to 10? But, if you want to conquer and be different than what everybody else is doing, make sure you still bring that physical one, because there's something about, that physical one and being in front of the customer. And I've literally actually I picked up a catalog this morning on a call with a customer, and I'm like flipping through it on the Zoom call because I couldn't share my screen because we were on FaceTime. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's very important and a way that you can still stand out as much as you can and as much as budget allows.
Fully support all of that. Good stuff. I agree 100%. We agree at Bellatuno.
Well, thank you guys so much. I know that you've given a lot of our attendees a ton of hope and everything for the future. I know plenty of people kept coming in here and saying that they're so excited to hear that you're so busy, Ashley, and that none of your sales or really anything have taken a fall during this time. So if you guys have any closing notes that you want to leave our remaining 200 or so attendees with, please feel free to share those now.
All right, I think we're good. Oh, Chuck, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think love the industry, believe in the people in this industry, and by all working together, we're going to get on the other side of this, and we'll be back at market and out on the road connecting. And but I believe in the people in this industry. That's why I love it so much.
Agreed, Chuck.
Great.
Thank you, Ari and Brandwise, for bringing us all together again. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
This is the real good.
Bye.